Welcome to Rock City Cookies, where we talk about all things cookies. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. Hey sweet friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do a new product review. When my customer requested a Where the Wild Things Are theme for this birthday set, I knew I wanted to take the opportunity to order and try out some fine tip paintbrushes. So with the exception of the icing that I used to pipe some of the words, like Where the Wild Things Are, One Wild Year, and the little boy's name Perrin, everything else on this set was hand painted, which means any color that you see looking at this set was done with food edible paint. Because of that, I really was able to use these brushes significantly, and I can give you some thoughts about if you should order them for yourself or not. One final disclosure before we jump right into the review, I am not doing a full tutorial on this video. So if you're wanting to see how I achieved all of these textures, how I painted step by step every single design, that will be on a full tutorial video on my Patreon page next week. This video is strictly to talk about and showcase the work that I was able to complete with the fine paintbrushes that I purchased. But as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the description box below. All of the supplies will also be listed in the description box below. And ready or not, let's finally get going. To begin, the paintbrushes that I will be reviewing today are Inspired to Taste paintbrushes that she has listed on her website. Now, if you do not follow Liz Joy on social media platforms, I highly suggest that you do that because she is by far one of the most talented cookie artists in the world. On Liz's website, you will click on Shop, which is in the top banner on the very right, and then you'll see the different things that you can purchase, but you will click on brushes to get to her paintbrushes. As you can see, she does have just a few sets of brushes listed. Now, I did purchase 3 different sets of brushes, and I'm only going to use 2 for this product review. However, I did purchase this 3rd fan brush here at the bottom, and I will show you what that looks like. However, I did not use it for this set. But the brushes that I am going to be reviewing today are the blue detailed brushes, the set of 3, as well as the fine line mermaid brushes, which is also a set of 3. Now, shipping cost will vary wherever you live. However, for me, it cost about $5 to get them shipped to my home. The order was shipped 3 days after I ordered it, and I did receive the paintbrushes about a week later. So that's not too terribly bad. That was about 10 business days, give or take, between me ordering and me receiving, and I was very pleased with how they arrived. They look exactly like they do online. So as you can see, each set of paintbrushes came in their own individual plastic covering. Let's remove those now so that we can get a closer look at these brushes. So even though I'm not reviewing this fan brush in this video, I still wanted to show you the brush. It is indeed a very beautiful brush, and I'm excited to use it in the future. And the other 6 brushes are all fine detail brushes. So even though they are all fine tip detail brushes, there are some differences in the bristles, and I will show you that up close in just a second. However, let's talk about just the paintbrush itself as a whole right now. All of the handles are made of plastic. They're not a flimsy plastic though. I felt like they were pretty sturdy, and I think they will hold up to a lot of washing and sanitizing, which is very important in our industry. Now, when comparing the handles side by side, you see that the fan brush is significantly shorter than the other 2. However, the mermaid brush handle is thicker than the unicorn handle. So if you like a thinner paintbrush, then the unicorn one is definitely a really thin, great size. It's not heavy at all. And then the mermaid is just a little bit more substantial, which if you prefer more of that kind of weight for your brush, that's the one to go with. Which truthfully felt the most comfortable for me. It felt like I was holding a pencil while I was painting. All right, so now let's take some up close looks at these bristles, which is by far the most important part of these paintbrushes. Now, before we look at each set of brushes individually, I did want to point out, even though the difference is very small, the gold brushes are slightly thicker than the silver brushes. So the gold belongs to the unicorn and the silver belongs to the mermaid. So each set of brushes did come with 3 different bristle sizes. They are longer and shorter, as well as thicker and thinner. It's great to have this kind of versatility when you are painting. And I'm going to pull in a unicorn brush here again, just so that you can see, even with the long bristles, yes, they are the same lengthwise, but the gold one, which is the unicorn, is just a tiny bit thicker. And it was that way for every single one of the brushes. It's a really subtle difference, I know, but it did actually make a difference in deciding which paintbrush I preferred. Okay, and here's one final look at the gold brushes, which belong to the unicorn brushes. Again, 3 different lengths and 3 different thicknesses. Okay, let's finally start painting. Our first cookie is from the book itself, Where the Wild Things Are, and I took inspiration from the book cover. As a quick reminder, the full tutorial is not going to be here, so I'm not going to explain how I made the tree, how I did the background, all of that good stuff. I'm only talking about the detail work that I'm finishing up on each one of these cookies. So I am using the mermaid brush here, and it is a little bit of the thinner brushes. Keep that in mind. So I'm using that for the small lines, as well as to add a little bit more detail onto the tree, just to give those leaves a little bit more of a pop. I'm pretty happy with how this design turned out, but let's try a little bit more of a complicated design that will take a little bit more painting next with the boat. So for the boat, I do make sure that all of the background coloring is completely dry. So I know it kind of looks a little bit shiny still, and it pretty much did keep its shine for the most part. However, to the touch, the yellow paint and the red paint is dry. So I know it's okay to come back with some more paint to add the details on top, which really does help these cookies to look more like the illustrations found in the book. Now, once again, I am finding myself drawn to the mermaid brushes for the smaller detail work. It really does give you those fine lines, so I definitely am enjoying using that for the smaller lines that I'm making. So I'm going to keep adding details to this boat. I am looking at the book while I'm working. I'm blessed to have read this book a million times to my own children, so we do own this book, and so I am looking at that while I am adding the detail work onto this boat. And really, the illustrations in the book have black over everything, really, in these really small, fine lines. So even though I'm not doing that small of detailed work, I still am trying to get the same feel as the illustrations in the book by adding black to a lot of the areas and using that as shading and just aging and all of that fun stuff, just to make sure that I really do pay attention to what the book has done. Now, I have finally switched over to the gold brush, which is the unicorn brushes, and they are the little bit of a thicker brush. So I wanted to switch to that brush for these lines that I'm making that are just a little bit more haphazard, where I'm less concerned about that fine detail. This is really more of a chance for me to kind of shade in areas and not have to worry so much about those fine detailed lines. So even though both brushes do give me some really fine lines, for the more precise work, I did already gravitate towards the mermaid brushes, and then for the less precise work but still fine lines, I gravitated towards the unicorn brushes. And you'll see this happen over and over. So anytime it's a gold tip, that's the unicorn brushes. Anytime you see the silver tips, that is the mermaid brushes. And of course, this paintbrush is a totally different paintbrush that I'm not reviewing in this video, but our boat is done and I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. So let's move on to our next design, which is Max himself. Now, the only pre-coloring I had to do with Max was just a little bit in his crown. So I already have the red and yellow found in his crown. So I'm going to start with his face first, and then I'll work my way straight outward for the rest of his body. And I'm going to give my little disclaimer for this video right here while I'm working. I have been sick. It is just seasonal allergies. I deal with this every single year. I have for years and years. However, I know that I sound nasally in this video, and I am so sorry for that. I should be back to normal soon, but I just wanted to give that disclaimer. If my voice sounds weird, if I sound like I'm talking through my nose, that's why, is because I am currently still recovering from allergies, and my Claritin and Zyrtec and Flonase are just, they're doing the best they can, but it's just not, I'm not back to normal yet. So I apologize if it is a little bit annoying, this video. All right, back to Max. I am using the mermaid brush for him completely at this point in time. These are some really fine lines. I want to make sure that I do the outline correctly and with precision for the most part. So I am doing this entire Max character so far with my mermaid brush. So I think that you're starting to see I do have a favorite brush so far. I am definitely enjoying the look and the feel of one brush over another, and I think that you'll continue to see that throughout the set. All right, let's quickly finish up this Max cookie and then we'll move on to our next design. All right, now that our Max King of All the Wild Things cookie is done, let's move on to a new cookie inspired by one of the forest scenes, which is the red trees. Again, the red and the brown are not colored royal icing. It's actually painted on. So once that paint has dried, I'm going to add in the detail work once again. In fairness, I am trying to use both of the paintbrushes equally. So I decided on this tree I would try the gold, which is the unicorn brushes, once more just to see with the texture. I thought a thicker paintbrush might be better than the thinner paintbrush so that you can really see the work that I'm adding to the tree. And you can see the lines are definitely a little bit thicker. I know it's a really subtle difference, guys, but when you're right there and you're on the cookie and you're looking at it, it really does feel different and it looks different to me. So I did use the gold brush for this cookie to kind of see what I thought about it, and it does work great. I do not want to bash these brushes at all. They are fantastic brushes. However, this is just not quite as fine and as little of detail work as the mermaid brush gives me, but that works great for the leaves because the leaves here needed to have a little bit of a thicker line. So it was perfect for my leaves and for my trunk, which had the texture already on it, and I was afraid that if it was too thin of a line, you wouldn't even see it with the texture. So this worked great for this tree, and we'll finish it up and then move on to the next design. Okay, next up is an actual monster from Where the Wild Things Are, and this monster is my personal favorite. It is the monster with the yellow and orange striped shirt. Now, I know you're looking at this, and this is clearly a yellow and red striped shirt, and that is because I made the decision to keep my colors cohesive, and so I decided to go with red and yellow as my colors that I repeated throughout the set, as well as the green and the brown. So this personal decision was a choice. I know in the book he actually has an orange and yellow striped shirts. Trust me, my children pointed it out as soon as they saw the cookie. However, I thought design-wise for my set, I could make the change so that it looked like a more cohesive set, because once again, that is ultimate priority to me, is to make sure that I repeat the same colors and the same style throughout an entire set. So even if I have to compromise on the original design that was found in the book, I was more than willing to do that. Now, this cookie really showcases the very fine lines that I'm able to accomplish with this silver brush, which again is the mermaid brush. I keep saying the tip color because I know in the video that's mostly only you can see as the tip. So it helps that they're both different colors, so you're able to differentiate by watching the video which paintbrush I'm using, because silver is mermaid, gold is the unicorn. But man, did I really love how the silver mermaid brush was able to give me these itty bitty little lines that I could not have accomplished with an edible marker or with any of my other existing paintbrushes. So if you really want that fine line that just really showcases individual hairs, I mean, the little marks on his ears, the teeth lines, the lines I was able to make around his nostrils, all of that was accomplished with these paintbrushes. So I think you're going to know what my final review is going to be of these brushes, but I really loved the detail and the work I was able to do on this monster cookie with these mermaid brushes. Superb. As we are going into our final design, I did want to give you some details about the paint that I used, as well as how to package cookies that have paint all over them. So the paint that was used is just food edible gel. It's the same coloring that I used to color all of my royal icing. So this is just Americolor Super Black that I'm using here, mixed with a high grain alcohol. And I'm talking about the higher the percentage of alcohol, the better. But I just used a tiny bit. I didn't want this thinned down like watercolor. I wanted the color to really come through. So I just thinned the food gel coloring down minimally with the high grain alcohol. And before you package anything that has paint like this on it, you definitely need to brush cornstarch over the entire surface of your cookies to keep the paint from smearing. So those are two very important things. Definitely make sure that you dry these cookies under a fan and that you give them a lot of drying time before you even package them, so that all of that paint is very dry and the packaging itself doesn't ruin your hard work. So as we pan over this entire set and look at the design as a whole, you can see that I used these brushes on almost every single cookie, and I have to say that I was very impressed. I highly recommend these fine detail brushes on the Inspired to Taste website. But by far, hands down, my favorite set of brushes were the set of 3 mermaid brushes. So go grab you a set of those. They are in the description box below. I'm not being paid for this. This is 100% my opinion, but I definitely think that you will love having those on hand for any of your designs. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.